South America. The continent of ancient ruins, geographical wonders, and fleeing Nazis. Some people argue that it isn't even a continent at all, just part of a single continent of the Americas, but who's got time to get into 7 versus 6 versus 3 continents theory here? Not me. This is a video about football, and one thing that I'll never do on this channel is get distracted by long meandering tangents that are unrelated to the title of the video. No, I wouldn't dare. South America isn't the continent in which football was invented, but some would argue that it is the continent where the sport was perfected. Brought to the shores of Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, and Montevideo, principally by British railwaymen, dock workers, and educators, South Americans soon became even more obsessed with football than the Europeans themselves. The first ever World Cup in 1930 was won and hosted by Uruguay, a country of fewer than 2 million people at the time, who'd also won each of the last 2 Olympics, which was the precursor to the creation of the FIFA World Cup. South American national teams have won 10 out of the 22 FIFA World Cups in total, so almost half of them, despite only being home to 5.5% of the world's population, and Brazil, which is by far the largest country in South America, are the most successful national team in the history of the World Cup, having won it on a record 5 occasions. Argentina, the current holders, have won it 3 times, and Uruguay, which is by far the smallest country ever to have won the World Cup, have won it twice. When I made an all-time 11 on this channel many moons ago, 6 of the starting 11 were South Americans, and when I made my list of the 100 greatest footballers of all time to celebrate this channel reaching 100,000 subscribers, 10 out of the top 16, including all of the top 4, were South American legends of the game. South America's historic standing within the game is beyond dispute, therefore, but how are the current crop holding up, I hear you ask. You didn't ask? Oh, well, I am remaking my series on the best footballer from every country on Earth, which started with the best player from every country in Europe a mere 5 months ago, which means that I am currently on course to complete this series in roughly 3 years, so I'm going to tell you regardless. As always, this is who I think is every country's best player right now, no more, no less. And when I say every country in South America, what I actually mean is every country affiliated with CONMEBOL. Suriname and Guyana, both of which are geographically located in South America, but are CONCACAF members, will feature in the upcoming North America video instead. I hope that's all clear enough, and you're not still contemplating whether you subscribe to 3, 6, or 7 continent theories of the world. Honestly, please stop thinking about that. I'm starting to wish that I'd never brought it up. Without further ado, who was born in Africa, raised in North America, and has retired, so he obviously doesn't feature, here is the best footballer right now, in my view, and in my view only, from every CONMEBOL affiliated nation. Argentina. Lionel Messi. This was the easiest decision in the world 6 years ago, which is when I first made a series taking a look at the best player from every country from each of the world's 7 continents. Yes, we will go with 7 for now. And therefore the whole world, but it is a lot less straightforward now. Lionel Messi is 37 years old now, rather than 31, and he is playing for Inter Miami in Major League Soccer, rather than for Barcelona in La Liga and the UEFA Champions League. What's more, it's not as though there is a lack of competition. Argentina are the reigning champions of both South America and the world, having won their 2nd successive Copa America in the summer just gone. It was their only goal scorer in the final, Lautaro Martinez, who came off the bench having actually had a fairly disappointing 2022 World Cup, despite the team's overall success, who came closest to surpassing Messi for me, having been outstanding for Inter Milan for at least the last 3 years, and unlike Messi, currently at the peak of his powers, aged 27. I also think Alexis McAllister deserves a shout, and though I never considered them, it would be remiss of me not to mention both Emiliano Martinez and Enzo Fernandez, given that others would. Ultimately, and I am almost certain that this is the last year in which this is likely to be the case, I still think Lionel Messi is the best player on the planet from Argentina, despite the level that he is now playing at, and he has illustrated that at international level, captaining Argentina to glory in the Copa America only in July, in which he made the team of the tournament. Messi is no longer, though, make no mistake, the player that he once was. To get the best out of him now, teams have to be built around him, and great effort must be made to accommodate his talents. There is a reason, nonetheless, why the reigning South American and world champions are still willing to make those accommodations, and that is because, when he gets on the ball, Messi can still do things that no other player in the world can. Since joining Inter Miami over a year ago, Messi has made 45 goal contributions in only 33 appearances, and there is still enough magic in those boots, for me, for him to feature very narrowly ahead of Lautaro Martinez. The real question is whether Messi will still be so good and so decisive in games that Argentina feel compelled to accommodate him by the time the 2026 World Cup comes around. A tournament at which Messi will turn 39 years old. But that's not the subject of today's video, so I don't really know why I've needlessly opened up that can of worms. Honestly, this is like the whole continent theory thing all over again. Bolivia. Roberto Fernandez. It is a tough call when it comes to Bolivia, and I don't say that because there are so many outstanding candidates. Famed for having one of the highest stadiums above sea level in the world, which can make it a very hostile place for away teams to travel to due to altitude sickness, Bolivia recorded noteworthy victories against both Venezuela and Chile over the most recent international break, but outside of that, the national team has been in a state of long-term decline. Once ranked 18th in the world, and about 50th the last time that I made this series, Bolivia now find themselves all the way down in 83rd in the FIFA World Rankings, below Bahrain and Oman, as the lowest ranked CONMEBOL national team. Goalkeeper Carlos Lampe is perhaps the most obvious shout, but the club Bolivar and Bolivia number 1 is 37 years old now, has shown signs of regression, and was forced off injured in the first half of Bolivia's 2-1 win against Chile, ruling him out for the rest of 2024. The likes of Ramiro Vaca, who is back starring in Bolivia for Club Bolivar following a stint in Belgium, and maybe most notably young Santos duo, Miguel Terceros and Enzo Monteiro, both aged 20 and hopefully with bright futures within the game, earn very honourable mentions, but right now, it is hard to look beyond Roberto Fernandez as being Bolivia's star man. Capped 39 times by the national team at the age of 29, Fernandez is a marauding left-back or left-wing-back who has spent this season and last on loan in the Russian Premier League, firstly with Baltika Kaliningrad, and now for newly promoted Akron Tolyatti. Played as a left winger recently for Bolivia, Fernandez has proven himself to be a creative menace, assisting both goals in that 2-1 win against Chile, as well as one of Bolivia's 4 goals against Venezuela. It is less than ideal for Bolivia that he is suspended for their next game against Colombia due to an accumulation of yellow cards. Brazil. Vinicius Jr. It's a similar dilemma with Brazil as it is with Argentina. Technically speaking, Neymar Jr. remains undoubtedly the most gifted Brazilian player in the world right now. For the national team, likewise, Neymar is still Brazil's talisman when fit, even after a whole host of injuries, age 32, and playing practically park football in Saudi Arabia. Had he not ruptured his ACL almost exactly a year ago, an injury from which he has returned to training, but not yet first-team action at the time of this recording, making it almost impossible to judge the level that he will return at, Neymar most likely would have featured. As it is, though, it's difficult to look beyond Vinicius Jr. Yet to really click for the national team, where you could argue that Alisson, Bruno Guimaraes, his club teammate Rodrigo, and even Endrick look to be more important players at this moment in time, at club level, Vinicius has had 3 successive awe-inspiring campaigns for Real Madrid. The main man last season, along with Jude Bellingham, as Madrid won a La Liga and Champions League double, it is widely reported that Vinicius is set to win the 2024 Ballon d'Or. He has to feature, but his indifferent form for the national team made this a much more debatable decision than it ought to have been. Chile. Eduardo Vargas. Chile's fall-off in international football really needs to be studied, which is why I am studying it and working on a video all about it, which will be out during the next international break. Chile won successive Copa Americas in 2015 and 2016, having never been crowned as the champions of South America before that, along with making successive World Cup round of 16 appearances in 2010 and 2014, and a Copa America semi-final appearance in 2019. Since their second successive Copa America triumph in 2016, Chile have failed to even qualify for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups, and they won't qualify in 2026, despite the expanded format. They went out in the group stage of the 2024 Copa America, and they are without a win in any of their last 5 matches. The end result is that Chile have fallen from 3rd in the FIFA World Rankings in 2016, when they had a plethora of outstanding players at the peak of their powers, like Claudio Bravo, Arturo Vidal and Alexis Sanchez, to being ranked 49th in the world now, the 3rd lowest of any CONMEBOL national team, with a 34-year-old Eduardo Vargas and a 35-year-old Alexis Sanchez, both way past their best, still constituting some of their best players. Club America's Diego Valdez, Mamelodi Sundowns' Marcelo Allende, and another veteran, 35-year-old Universidad de Chile star Charles Arangues, who has now retired from international football, were all in the mix, as was, hand on heart, Southampton's Stoke-born centre-forward Ben Brereton Diaz. To be honest, I'm not entirely convinced that Eduardo Vargas is a better forward at 34, starring for Atletico Mineiro, where he has been since 2020, than Benjamin Anthony Brereton, as he was born, who joined Southampton in the summer for around £7 million. I have edged towards Vargas still, who is Chile's second highest scorer of all time and remains lively, but this was like picking who you'd most like to go to a rave with out of the 2024 Conservative Party leadership election candidates. I mean, it's Priti Patel, obviously, it'd have to be, but it's a miserable choice and the best days of her career are still long behind her. Colombia, Luis Diaz. It's really tempting to pick James Rodriguez, who won the Golden Ball as the best player, as Colombia reached the final of the 2024 Copa America, and is so much fun to watch, but much as I hope that James is still around for the 2026 World Cup, the honest answer is Luis Diaz. Diaz had a tough upbringing, put on a diet plan by his first professional club in Colombia to gain 10 kilograms because they determined that he was malnourished. The first indigenous Colombian to ever represent Colombia's national football team, Diaz is of Wayuu origin, and aged 27, he's already won more than 50 caps for the national team. Quick, gifted, and incredibly determined, Diaz was sensational at Porto, preceding a potential €60 million move to Liverpool, and following talk that he would be replaced by Anthony Gordon in the summer, he has made a terrific start to life under Arne Slot, scoring 5 goals from the left flank in his first 6 games this season. Aside from James, honourable mentions also go to Crystal Palace's Daniel Munoz, his club and international comrade Jefferson Lerma, and Al-Sadd's Mateus Uribe. Ecuador, Moises Caicedo. I thought Moises Caicedo looked like he had the potential to be one of the best midfielders on the planet when I first watched him at Brighton, and as difficult as his debut campaign at Chelsea was, along with everyone else's season at Chelsea last year, other than Cole Palmer's it should be said, I wasn't fickle enough to give up on him just like that. Sure enough, in a start to the season by Chelsea that has surprised a lot of people, I think Caicedo has been excellent. A graduate of the Independiente del Valle youth ranks, who was snapped up by Brighton in 2021, Chelsea paid an initial £100 million for Caicedo, potentially rising to £115 million, subject to add-ons. For that kind of money, you'd hope that he was quite good, but the fee isn't Caicedo's fault, and still only 22, he has plenty of time to prove his worth. At that age, Caicedo has already racked up 48 caps for Ecuador, on course to retire with somewhere close to 200, and his form for the national team has never wavered. Only Purvis Estepinian, his former club and still international teammate, who has had a wretched time with injuries over the last 12 months, even comes close, making Caicedo maybe the easiest pick in this video. It wouldn't be a HITC 7's video without an obligatory Hull City reference though, so a quick word for Oscar Zambrano, a brilliant young holding midfielder who would most likely have joined a Premier League club in the summer, were he not widely expected to receive a lengthy ban in the immediate future for doping. Paraguay, Diego Gomez. The second Inter Miami player, rather bizarrely to feature in this video, Diego Gomez is a bit less of a household name than Lionel Messi. Currently ranked 57th in the world, Paraguay haven't qualified for a World Cup since 2010. They went out in the group stage of the last Copa America, and there is little to split a whole host of their better players in my opinion. Palmeiras captain Gustavo Gomez, Newcastle's Miguel Almiron, Torino's Antonio Sanabria, Getafe's Omar Alderete, Nottingham Forest's Ramon Sousa, and Dinamo Moscow's Fabian Balbuena are all good but not exactly outstanding players. Meanwhile, Brighton's Julio Enciso, who looked like a superstar in the making when he first broke through at the Amex, may well have taken it were it not for the meniscus tear that he suffered in August 2023, massively setting back his development. Ultimately, with so little to split so many players, much as he may be playing at the lowest level out of any of them, I found it hard to look past Diego Gomez. The 21-year-old joined Inter Miami from Libertad for a couple of £1 million over a year ago, and over the last few months, he has simply been outstanding. A clever and industrious central midfielder, Gomez caught the eye in the round of 32 and in the round of 16 of the Leagues Cup, and he's carried that form with him into Major League Soccer. And he was also arguably the best player on the pitch, as well as scoring the only goal of the game, when Paraguay recorded a shock victory against Brazil in 2026 World Cup qualifying last month. Peru. Renato Tapia. Peru qualified for their first World Cup in 36 years in 2018, with ageing national team icons like Paulo Guerreiro and Jefferson Farfan still playing a starring role. Now aged 40, Guerreiro is actually still in and around the national team squad, meanwhile 39-year-old Farfan retired in 2022. Renato Tapia, then of Feyenoord, was just 22 years old when he went to the World Cup in Russia, but he is now arguably Paraguay's main man, firmly in his prime, aged 29. Once sought after by the likes of Tottenham and Liverpool, Tapia is a steely and tenacious midfield ball winner, now capped 86 times by the national team. Following 4 years at Celta Vigo, Tapia joined fellow La Liga side Leganes in the summer just gone, and he features for me, albeit only narrowly, ahead of the likes of Italian-born Cagliari striker Gianluca Lapadula, Copenhagen fullback Marcos Lopez, and Boca Juniors veteran Luis Advancula. Uruguay. Federico Valverde. Two-time world and 15-time South American champions, albeit their last successes in those respective tournaments came in 1950 and in 2011, Uruguay are arguably the biggest overachievers in the history of international football. La Celeste might not be considered World Cup contenders these days, but they still punch well above their weight, ranked 11th in the world, and with star players including the likes of Ronald Araujo, Darwin Núñez, Rodrigo Bentancur, Manuel Ugarte, and Nicolas de la Cruz. All deserve honourable mentions, otherwise I wouldn't have mentioned them, but Uruguay's best player at this moment in time, hands down, is Federico Valverde. A tireless and versatile midfield workhorse, capable of playing over 60 games a season at full intensity for the most high-pressure club on the planet. If it came out that an active Champions League winner had failed a drugs test for doping, he'd be high up my list of candidates. I should clarify, for legal reasons more than anything else, that I am not accusing Federico Valverde of any wrongdoing whatsoever. I'm just saying that his energy levels and ground coverage are so impressive that I wouldn't be all that surprised if it turned out that he was a drug cheat. I feel like I'm only making things worse. Capped 63 times by Uruguay and likely to hit 300 appearances for Real Madrid this season. Overall, obviously, not literally just this season. Valverde is among the best midfielders on the planet and is Uruguay's standout player in my eyes and, I would imagine, most people's. Venezuela. Yangel Herrera. Last but not least, Venezuela may be considered the historic black sheep of CONMEBOL, having never qualified for the World Cup, and having had an abysmal record at the Copa America until the mid-2000s, owing, in large part, to the fact that it is basically the only CONMEBOL nation where football isn't the most popular sport, due to baseball's superior popularity ever since Venezuela won the Amateur World Series with a shock victory against Cuba in the final all the way back in 1941. With that being said, Venezuela's progress in recent years deserves some recognition. Now ranked 40th in the world, there are an unprecedented 4 CONMEBOL national teams below them. Venezuela have gone unbeaten in games against the likes of Uruguay, Mexico, and even Brazil over the last couple of years, and it is a distinct possibility that they will qualify for their first ever World Cup in 2026. The likes of Gremio's Jefferson Soteldo, Botafogo's Jefferson Savarino, Corinthians' Jose Andre Martinez, and Universidad Catolica's Rafael Romo have all played a key role in Venezuela's rise and would be worthy inclusions. But my pick for La Vinotinto is 26-year-old midfield sensation Yangel Herrera. Capped 37 times, Herrera actually joined Manchester City from Atletico Venezuela in 2017, spending the next 6 years contracted to the club, though he never played a game for them. He honed his skills during loan spells with New York City FC, Huesca, Granada, Espanyol and Girona, before joining the latter, who are also part of the City Football Group, on a permanent basis in 2023. Herrera made 31 appearances last season as the beating heart of a Girona team that surprised everyone, finishing 3rd in La Liga, and he is comfortably good enough to be playing Champions League football, which he is this season. Athletic, intelligent and hardworking, but also technically underrated and capable of scoring a cracking goal from long range, Herrera starred for Venezuela in recent games against Canada and Jamaica, and they will need him to be at his best if they are to qualify for their first World Cup. That is it for today's video and the latest installment in this series. I hope that you enjoyed it and are enjoying it, because that's why I do it, not for the money, just for all of you. I'm an incredibly selfless person. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, because, it helps apparently. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, of course, both to this channel, HITC7s, and also to my second channel, Alfie Potsama, both of which should be about to appear on your screens now, along with a couple of videos that you might enjoy watching after this one, because, like I said, that's the reason I do it. And you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads via the username @HITC7s on all three, should you wish to do so. And all of those links, plus a whole lot more, should be down in the video description below. Cheers.